And this is a slightly different piece for me today because I'm actually responding to a request from a friend. And he's a public speaker, and he asked me if I could give him an idea how I structure my YouTube videos. So I'm going to go through this very quickly, but these are 8 steps that I think are really helpful when you're putting together a YouTube video. Hi, it's Scott McArthur here, producer of the Edge of Next YouTube channel, which looks at all issues relating to the future of work with particular focus on making sure our activities focus on creating a return on humanity. So step number 1 is the topic itself, the theme that you're going to talk about. So I usually think about that for quite a while. I scribble them down, ideas down on post-its, and I eventually come up with what I call the golden thread. And the golden thread runs through all of the presentation. And even if I go off into a story or I start to talk about something that's tangential, I will always come back to the golden thread. So that's number 1. The second thing that I think about is, okay, what's the outcome? What am I expecting the audience to get from this particular talk? Now, most of my talks are educational. Some of them are training type videos, like this one might be. But what I'm trying to do is give everyone ideas that can be transformational, and they can actually take that into their life and use it either personally or use it when they go back into the workforce, whether it's strategically or as part of a team. So number 2 is thinking about the outcome. Then I get my laptop out, and I am a user of Prezi. Now you could use anything to do this. You could use Word, you could use PowerPoint, you could use anything at all, Rocket, whatever it is you use. But I then create a map with all my different ideas on, and I'll put an example on here. And these are the things that spark from the golden thread. Now quite often this is quite a long list. I also go to my phone, and on my phone I've got about 400 stories that I've been collecting over the last 18 months, which are from my life. I call this being an archaeologist of your own life. So I look at my stories, I think about what will sit well with the golden thread, and I get them into this mind map. Then what I have to do, so that's number 3, so that's about my ideas or my mind mapping stage or my Prezi map. Then I say, okay, there's the golden thread, there's the key idea. Let's select a few of the issues or the ideas that have came up and I've detailed on my Prezi map. So it starts to get the flow of the presentation that I'm going to do on YouTube. This can quite often be the hardest part for me because I have lots and lots of things going through my head all the time, and because I talk about cognitive diversity and I try to come at things from different disciplines. So on the one hand I might be talking about biology, whereas the next I might be talking about chemistry, the next I might be talking about art or about poetry, whatever. All sorts of different things come into my head. So I quite often have difficulty with this part. But eventually what I try to come up with is a simplified structure. And that will be, again, my golden thread, the key topic or the theme that I'm thinking about, what I want the client to get, the person who's watching this video to get at the very end. And then I'll say, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, depending on how long the particular video is going to be. So that's now number 6, I think, is a bit of a secret. Many years ago, when I was working in the fish factories, believe it or not, I was working for one of the big food companies. I came across a fella called Jim Douglas, who's still a dear friend of mine, who has been quite a significant part of my life. And we had a whole load of things going on. We were going through a transformation process. We were in trouble. We were trying to streamline the activities. And what he said to me was, with anything that I'm doing, I should always look to polish my shoes. Now, obviously that's a metaphor. He's not talking about literally polishing your shoes, so I guess that can help in some circumstances. But what Jim was meaning was, you should always prepare yourself as much as you can whenever you're doing anything on film, or indeed on stage, or indeed in real life when you're having a meeting. And he called it polishing your shoes. So what have I done? I had to think about it in terms of the space that I have for making videos, the ideas that I have, the key theme I have, which is storytelling, using that to help people into the future of work, trying to give them ideas and mental models. So one of the things that's really important to me is to think about how this looks. And what I mean by that, it can be what I'm wearing. So at the moment I've got one of my, I make these t-shirts myself, I get them made for me, which are some of the key words that I will use when I'm speaking. So this, I talk a lot about why analog is the future, so I've got one with analog on it. I've got others like radical simplicity, time well spent, return on humanity. I've got a whole load of them that I use depending on what I'm speaking about. Sometimes though I just stick a shirt on. I'm not somebody that gets too concerned about the clothes. I just think you should dress appropriately. But more important to me, certainly now when I'm making videos, is what's behind me here. Now I call this my karaoke wall, and this is where I put artifacts that I'm going to use when I'm speaking. And I think about what I'm going to talk about in the talk, and then I refer to these artifacts. So for example, if I turn around here, you'll see there's an old-fashioned but rather large egg timer. Now one of my key themes when I'm speaking is about time well spent, and this is deliberately, I got this one deliberately because it's a 45-minute egg timer. So if I'm doing a keynote and it's about time and it's about how we can use time well spent as a way of running our organisations in terms of structuring activities, this is rather cool. It also helps me remember how long I've got to speak, but people like it. They like it when I pick things up and I talk to them about what I'm actually holding and what it means, etc. I'll show you just the one more before I move on to the final couple of bits. This, for example, is a ridiculous one. Look at this. This is a little car. Now those of you of a certain age may recognise it. It's from the Jetsons, which was a TV show in the 70s that talked about what it'd be like to live in 2020. And I use this as a metaphor for how ridiculous it is sometimes to try and tell what's going to happen in the future. So polish your shoes. Think about what you're going to put around you, what you're going to wear, etc, etc. Then I start to film the process. So we all use different ways of filming. I happen to use Filmic Pro. I use a Lavalier mic. I've got some nice lighting around me. I make sure I carefully set that up. I don't always get it right. I'm having issues just now with sound, but I'm learning. I'm only doing this a few months, so it's something that you have to learn. So you film the thing. And then finally I go through the editing process, and this is where I've personally spent most of my effort. I've been using an editing package called Filmora 9. I happen to like it, but I have to say I've reviewed about 10 different systems and they're basically all the same. I think the best thing to do is just get hold of one and start to use it and get familiar with the filming and editing process. The thing that I've learnt in the short time I've been making films is to keep things simple, because initially I was using all sort of wobble effects and I was transitioning things and I was bringing in, you know, special elements, doing all sorts of different things. I think what I've learned is to keep it really simple. And of course then after you've edited your film, you can release it to the world. Now that was a really quick journey through how I produce my videos for my YouTube channel, The Edge of Next. I hope you found it useful. The 8 steps again are the topic, the outcome, my ideas, the organisation of it so I get the flow right, the simplified structure. Polish your shoes, probably the most important part. Do the filming and then edit it. My name's Scott MacArthur. I hope you found that handy. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe, and once you've hit the subscribe button, there's a little bell pops up. Hit that and you'll be notified of any time that I produce a new video. Thanks very much.